All right, take two, as usual. We always seem to have trouble with this live video. But anyway, we were supposed to meet with Melissa last week, but we had a bit of a issue, so that didn't work out. But today we are meeting and talking, and it's a good day to do it. So let's get all this set up, and then we'll get going. Okay, Melissa, again, your avatar doesn't have a video, so make sure your phone or whatever is okay to transmit a video because I know we can do this. We've done it before, but right now it seems to think that you don't either have enough bandwidth or something. So I see you, but I can't actually invite you. I waved at Melissa. All right. Make sure that you're on your phone, right? So this live only works on your phone, not on your computer. And make sure you're using your Facebook app. Yeah, okay. Can't go live with you. Melissa can't go live with you right now. Why not? Let me see if it's on your end. It could be. We have been having internet issues here, so it could be that as well. The internet was off for almost the entire day yesterday. Okay, let's try that now. Ah, there we are. Okay. Yes, go. No answer from live video guest. Let's try it again. I approve you. Oh dear. All right. Approve. No answer. Approve. Still no answer. Again approve. Alright, let's see if I can do it from my direction. Let's do that. Turn off the requests. Do that. Turn off requests. Okay, that's weird. As usual, everyone, hello, who's watching? We are having technical issues, but if we wait a little bit, the payoff is enormous. While we're doing this, if you guys are interested, if you think the bags under my eyes are more than usually thick and heavy, they are, in fact, and it's not merely because of baby number 3. Yes, technology, Ron Slockett, absolutely. I've actually as of today, I've started a new and slightly insane project, I guess you can call it. I have started a course of study here at Jordanville for my Masters of Divinity, which together with everything else that I'm doing, it's slightly insane. I actually did a perspective schedule of everything that I need to have in place during the course of oh, that looks good. It look like Melissa is available to be joined. Yes. No answer from live guest. All right. Melissa, it might be on your end. It might just be bad internet. Can you make sure that you're in the best possible Wi-Fi that you can be in? Anyway, I've started my Master's of Divinity program, and as I was saying, yes, I actually wrote out every single hour of every single day from Monday to Friday to see what that would be, what that would actually entail, and I have to be in intense work from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every single day, and that's not counting homework or time with kids. If I'm gonna make this work, so.
There, it's working.
Hey.
I'd ever get on with you. Oh my gosh, the hassle.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's not just you. It happens every single time. I suppose it could be me, but
maybe I was gonna go downstairs, but no, I think I'm gonna stay up here because it's quieter.
Okay.
My
Good call.
We just got back from a 4-H banquet, so my kids are like psyched up.
Oh gosh.
So good.
Even this late?
Well, it was for the teenagers. The teenagers had their year-end banquet and they got all their pins and everything like that. So it's good.
Yeah,
Good.
excellent, excellent. How far did you have to travel?
Um, 27 miles. We're
Okay, so for you that's what, 5.5 hours?
oh no, because there's no traffic. It's like I don't know, it's like 5 minutes. It's not bad. We're
Okay.
we're really far out. I'm 17 miles from a gas station.
Yeah.
I am 3/4 of a mile from my closest neighbor. So we're nowhere. I was doing the math with Gregory today, and or no, it was Jack. I was doing the math with Jack. So we moved from Denver, and we had moved out of the city and into the suburbs. So we lived in Aurora. So we looked it up, and it was 2,780 people per square mile.
Okay.
And where we live now, it's 2. And it used to be 1.6, but we moved here. And when you bring a family of
uh,
15, you change the dynamics.
that's amazing.
It's kind of funny because I think about it, it's like, wow, I've got like a totally different take on things. Crowded is when I see another car on the road.
Yeah, crowded is not around the dinner table, right?
No, it's when I see another. Well,
No.
it's funny because one of my daughters stayed with the nuns at Jordanville for 3 weeks, and she was
Mhm.
telling me that she had a hard time sleeping because they're so close to the highway, and everyone kept thinking, "Oh, this is really out in the country," and she's like, "You have no idea.
Yeah,
You have no idea
yeah,
what I'm talking about."
yeah. We have traffic jams in Jordanville. Yeah,
Yeah, it's true.
two cars go in a row. Yeah.
But you can hear other people, and that's something that my kids aren't used to anymore, especially my youngest ones. They have no idea.
Well, we also have some sort of a quarry less than a mile away. So early in the at late at night, early in the morning, there's some sort of a hum going on when they start doing work out there.
Oh,
So it could have been that. It's possible that it wasn't even cars, but some sort of heavy
uh,
machinery. So
that I could see that.
anyway, anyway, hello
How are you?
officially.
I'm
I'm
glad to see
okay.
you up
I'm tired.
and around and busy and active.
Oh goodness, let's not talk about busy and active. I was just before you turned on, I was just telling everybody
You're.
that today I started my MDiv at Jordanville.
I
So
heard.
um,
I was able to see it.
yeah,
I was sending requests, and I don't know what was going on. It just wasn't going through. But anyway, yes, that's so much work.
yeah,
Good. It's good work.
yeah. So it's taking up only my afternoons. So I have my mornings to do everything else. So that's fine.
Only that.
My point. No, no, it'll be fine. But anyway, it's not about me. We're here to talk about you. So tell me a little about yourself. Who are you, Melissa?
Okay. So people who don't know me, I wrote Fasting as a Family. I grew up in my family's actually catering business, and so we were always making food for other people. It's a good thing. My grandmother was in high demand. She cooked for so many events. And so anyway, I wrote Fasting as a Family because there were people who wanted to subscribe to my menu plans. I was putting
Okay.
together, using a phone app, my menu plans for Lent and things like that. And people started subscribing to it. And I kept getting encouraged to write a book, and I didn't want to. I mean, I wanted to write a book, but I didn't want to write that book.
Uh-huh.
I realized, okay, I think God is telling me something. So I wrote that book. And I'm really glad that I did.
Yeah.
But so here I am now. I think people are getting to find out more about me, that I'm not just, I don't just cook. I mean, I do cook, and cooking is like the center of my life. I love food. Um, but one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight is the other thing that my family does. When my husband's father died 5 years ago, we moved to his family's 19th century homestead. So we live in the
Mhm.
house that my husband's great grandfather actually built with his own hands. I know, I can't.
Crazy.
I think about it, and it's just like mind blowing because he came from Finland, and he was 35 years old, and he built a log cabin by himself while he waited for his wife and brothers to come over. And like
Yeah.
it blows my mind. He did this
Yeah.
like with.
I can't do that.
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that. Anyway, so we moved from the city to my husband's family's homestead, and we have cows and sheep and turkeys, and we have so many ducks. We have 40 ducklings right now. Um,
Oh my
oh,
goodness.
we have about 4 dozen ducks. And then we have the turkeys, and then we have just shy of a dozen sheep. We're raising a ram lamb, and then we have 3 cows, and it's a
Goodness.
good
Wow.
day. It's busy, but it's good. It's busy, like you were talking about how you're busy in the afternoons. My mornings are busy.
Yeah.
I get up really early,
Right.
get everything done, but it's a good kind of busy.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you herd 40 ducks?
Actually, it's really, really easy. Ducklings, they like to stick together. So we just kind of
Okay.
through and we take our arms and we kind of wave them like this. Um, we also use sticks. I mean, it sounds really mean, but you just have to kind of push them. We're not like hitting them with sticks.
Yeah.
Um, had problems with it's so funny when I tell people this. We have owls and we have eagles, and the eagles are nesting in the woods around the house, and you can't
Oh
pick
my
up
goodness.
their feathers and you can't touch them, but they're eating my freaking ducklings, and nothing makes me angrier. And so
Yeah.
hear them, or if I see them, I'll go out and the kids will have to like wave sticks above the ducklings to keep the eagles away. And it's so funny because
Wow.
people get really excited, like, oh my gosh, eagles. I'm like, no, they're terrible.
Yeah.
They eat my bird. Oh, I can't
I know.
I
God,
can't throw rocks at them. They're eagles. You'll go to jail. So
do- oh, really? They're protected
they're protected. You can't. We're not even allowed to pick up the feathers.
because they're bald eagles, or why?
Bald eagles.
Yeah.
So we.
See, Benjamin Franklin had it. Benjamin Franklin had it right. He wanted to make the turkey the national bird.
I've got to let my husband's dog in this room really quick because she's getting.
I-
She hasn't seen me all day. Okay, Cookie, come.
That's okay. We're dog friendly here.
Hi. She hasn't seen me all afternoon, and she gets all upset about it.
No, of course. Your attention must be constantly torn apart by every single living creature that's surrounding you at all
You
times.
know what? It's mostly the kids. The kids are, but you know, it's
Yeah.
good. Again, um, for those who don't know,
So how many kids do you have?
I
Remind us.
have 11 kids, no twins, all singletons. So I have 6 girls and 5 boys. So it goes boy, boy, girl, 3 boys in a row, and then 5 girls in a row.
Oh my goodness.
You
Wow.
only know my boys, really, because they come up to,
Well, yeah, yeah. I met one of your girls who came with you last time.
I think, which girl was it? I can't even remember. It was Isabel. I think I had Isabel with me.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I
yeah.
my littlest one's home, but yeah, she wanted to
So and you also homeschool them, right? Is that right?
do. I homeschool. So,
Wow.
but it's a lot, but we use St. Raphael's, which helps a lot. So the kids have
Yeah.
back in time, and that means that not everything is my job because I think I would cry if everything was my job because there's only so many balls in the air at one time.
Yeah. No kidding. So St. Raphael's, they use an online forum. Is that
Right.
is that right? How does it work?
So
Okay.
if you've ever used Zoom for meetings and things like that,
Yeah.
it's the same format. So the kids log in
Okay.
their regular time. So they have a classroom um, meeting time and they go ahead and log in. And then there's an online application that they use to track their schoolwork and to track
Okay.
assignments and things like that. So they can turn things in. And even the littlest one. So my youngest, Claudia, she's 5 and she's in kindergarten. And so she does it, but she has to have somebody sitting right with her. So,
Okay.
so I do that with her every day. And then it works.
Did you see that? Did you see that there was this article making the rounds about how education in front of a screen is not as effective as having children outside on a farm doing farm-like things.
Yes. Oh, I was so gratified to hear that because interesting. So my kids really like their online class time because we live in a really isolated.
Uh,
That means they get to see kids, but it's also screen time. And during the school year and during the school week, we're really really tight on school time. Um,
uh,
they get to get their school work done. They're not getting any screen time other than what they're getting for writing papers or things like that. And so my kids guard that pretty jealously. But
hmm
I had somebody who criticized one of my boys who's very, very good at math, saying that
uh-huh.
his goal to be a farmer was wasting his intelligence. And
Whoa.
I actually had to say this to his face. And I was pretty upset because this kid is really, he's very, very good at math. And I don't think she understands how many farming things require an awareness of math.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but when when that came out, I like shared it on my page on Facebook, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
ah, like how much my kids learn by doing things, but because they do, they end up doing a lot. I think a lot of times people aren't really aware of. Well, there's two things. People have sort of a nostalgic idea of farming that doesn't involve any
Yes.
reality.
Yes.
It's dirty. It's very dirty work. It's filthy work. Like I can't even tell you how moving hay around, how dirty it is and how dusty it is. But so they have this very clean, sanitized idea that it all looks like a Heidi movie or something like that. But
Yeah.
the other part of it that they don't get is that it is actually mental work. When you're thinking, okay, how long is this grain going to last? How many pounds do I have to feed
Mhm.
the animals of this? Because feeding animals to gain their optimal weight for market or to get the optimal amount of milk, it's not just like this random thing. Like, you open a can of dog food and you give it to your dog. We actually have to
Mhm.
measure and weigh things and mix them at the proper ratios and count what animals are there. And then we have to know what we're having ahead of time. This is the time
Mhm.
of year when we're getting ready for winter. And so we're thinking about
Right.
hay and pounds of hay that we're going to have. And just, when I have to send kids out, to go mow or any of those things, like we're expanding pasture because my
Mhm.
husband's family stopped farming and then just sold hay for a long time. And then they shrunk
Mhm.
the area that they were using for hay fields. And when we came back, we started increasing those areas. That's actually a lot of work because you have to calculate how far it is and you seed costs and things. It's actually very much a mental exercise. It's all based
Mhm.
on arithmetic. You're not going to find
Mhm.
doing a whole lot of calculus,
Well, yeah, yeah.
a lot of math. There is a lot of work involved, and I don't think people realize that. People just don't even understand what it's like.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it surprises me that people still think that way. It seems to be a kind of I don't know, elitist nineteenth century kind of view of farming, especially considering you tend to see the opposite these days. You tend to see a lot of a romanticized vision of like you were saying, of farming, and how kind of the return to the earth is the the escape from the city, and how everybody on some level wants that, whether it's having a greenhouse in their backyard, or having herbs outside or something like that, right?
I think they do, but I also think that they also don't understand. So okay, so recently we had some college students here from a cooking club, and they drove out here to look at things and to actually learn how to make some food. And it was really interesting to me how no one had thought, like, and I'd been really clear. It's like this is a working farm and our sheep are free range.
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
you can't keep lambs. You can do your best, but they've got wool and it's resistant to electricity, so they go where they want. And I told them, we have lambs. You just need to know that. And when they got out of their cars and there was like this flood of lambs came to them, it kind of them. And lambs don't even have teeth; they're fine. But then somebody stepped in poop, and it was just like this shock that animals pooped. And it was just like I thought I explained this part to you guys. There's poop. It's okay. And at least one was had some idea that's like, yeah, that's okay, guys. There will be poop. I was like, really? And then a couple of them had wanted to go into the barn to look at the calf. Our youngest calf, he's 6 weeks old now. And I said, well, do you have boots? I'm like,
Uh-huh.
what? I'm like, you can't wear flip-flops to a barn. You just you can't wear flip-flops to a barn. But when you see barns on Pinterest that people are having weddings in, they've got their like clean wooden floors and they're well lit and airy. It's like that's
Yep,
actually
yep.
a barn.
That's not a barn.
I can
Yeah, amazing.
right now. And,
Yeah.
but it's
So is
go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead. No, 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 you're fine.
No, I was just gonna say that it was really funny to me because they would like look out the window like, oh, there's a sheep. They're like, there's a lot of them. I'm like, oh, I just saw wow. I'm like, did you see one or did you see three? And look at that. And it was a novelty to them. It really, really
Yeah.
it was a novelty.
Well, okay, so yeah, it's true, but having been in this world for a while and not having been born into it, do you think that all of that sort of romanticization of it, does it have any bearing in reality? Is this a life that is better than a life in the city?
I wouldn't say better, because I think you need both. I mean, really,
Hmm.
one of the things that makes my life easier is that someone somewhere makes baling twine, and someone somewhere makes electric wire, and that someone somewhere runs the computers that means that I have internet. That's all of that is true. But what I do think that people are really hungry for, when you were talking about they want to have their pots of herbs and things like that, is they want
Hmm. Yeah.
something. And I don't mean to sound like I'm being socialist about it, because I'm absolutely not, but they just want to own something that they've done. And there's that sense of pride that, like, look what I did, I made that cake, or look what I did, I made that table. When you say, look at that cow, you know, that's the cow that I get my milk from, and that's where, you know, my neighbors get their cheese and milk from. And you know, we're going to be processing beef here pretty soon, and when we process that beef, there's definitely a sense of ownership, and I think that's ultimately what people are looking for. um,
Hmm.
and in a way, I do think that's better than the city, that just this little element, because a lot of times when you live in a city, um, you go to work and you basically have a George Jetson job. You just have to push the right buttons in the right order, and there's no sense of accomplishment. And at the end of the day, there's nothing that you can say, I've created this, I have
Hmm.
this thing that I have made, and that I can have some sense of pride in. And farming teaches long-term goals. When, like, when you're out in the barn delivering lambs or calves, um, there, by the end of the day, you have that animal at the end of the day, but the payoff is like 18 months down the road. Like with beef steer, if you're doing
Right.
beef, that's 18 months down the road. And we have to think about that type of goal 18 months down the road. And the awards don't exist. You're not going to get like a plaque from your boss. You're not going to get the parking space. You have to be the one to tell yourself, like, yay, no cows are dead. Another we did this winter. But it's good. It still can be good. But I think that's what it does, is it feeds that need to have ownership over something.
You having lived in the city and now switch the city for something like this, do you ever think of going back?
You know what? I every once in a while I think, like, that I'd sleep more. I wouldn't have to get the night for anything. Like, you know, especially we do a lot more lambs than we do calves. And oh my gosh, lambing season is so much work, because we have to go out and we have to check on them every hour. Um,
Wow.
well, because ewes get really defensive. They will fight other sheep to take their lambs. And
Oh my goodness. Okay.
yeah, and that's not good if they're not a lactating ewe. I mean, if they were a lactating ewe, maybe I
Right.
wouldn't worry about it so much. So we have to make sure that we separate them right away, so that all the ewes and their lambs are in separate pens. And so we have temporary pens that we put up for that. So literally somebody's out every single hour overnight, every single hour. And so I would sleep more. But I went to go see some friends of ours in Cleveland. Just, gosh, it was in July, and we went shopping, because, like, I'm literally 111 miles from a Target, which, like, it's 111 miles. There's Target and there's Starbucks right there, right next door, and I have to go over 100 miles to go to Target. And she's got like 3 Targets around her. And at first I thought, like, oh, this is really good, but at the same time I realized that there's definitely certain trade-offs that I don't know that I could do as easily anymore. Like, I really, really enjoy the sheep in a way that I didn't think that I would enjoy sheep. We started out with cows, and then one of my kids, actually my oldest daughter, wanted some sheep. And so we ended up getting a couple of sheep, and then we got a couple more. And then now we're breeding sheep, and now we're raising rams for other families. And then we're processing lamb for ourselves, but we're also breeding more sheep. And so it's something that I hadn't thought that I would really get into, like breeding sheep,
Yeah.
but I love it. And I know that if I were to move to a city so I could have 3 Targets close by, that would mean I wouldn't have sheep. And I also
Yeah.
can't have like 4 dozen ducks in the city. They kind of frown on that. And I,
Yeah, a little bit.
okay, so my son Jack, my youngest boy, one of his favorite things to do, and he really, really loves to do this. He likes to go into the barn, and he sprinkles the the poultry feed on his feet, and lets all the ducks come eat the poultry feed off his feet, like the little ducklings, because it tickles funny. So he'll go out and he will stand there like on a pallet for holding hay and cover his feet in bird feed so that he can feed the ducklings. And it's a really weird thing to do that my kids would never have had the chance to do if we hadn't decided just to chuck
Yeah.
move to a 19th century house with no closets.
Yeah.
You know? It's good. There's things that my kids get to do now that they wouldn't get to do, and I don't think that they could easily go back. Sometimes they say things like,
Yeah.
"We had a grocery store," and I get that. Hang on one second. So they'll say, "I wish we had a grocery store," but at the same time, they also say things like, "You know what we need? We need more ducks," or "You know what we need? We need more sheep." And I think they like and the ducks more than they like having a grocery store. So
Yeah.
balance.
Amazing. 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 So, what do you want for them? Do you want each one of them to have a separate farm?
Um,
Because that's
it's
that's a lot of farms.
there's definitely the space. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think um, all of them have their own strengths and their own goals. One of my boys, actually my second oldest boy, has been apprenticing with a man who runs an auto repair and tractor repair business out of his home, and he's learning how
Mhm.
like the things he can fix now blows Raymond, you know Raymond. The things he can fix now, it's like I don't even understand how he fixes these things. So we had a problem
Mhm.
with our come along snowblower fixes it. Neighbor had a problem
Yeah.
with the tiller, fixed it. I'm like, how do you
Yeah.
even
Amazing.
know how these things? But he does, and he fixes these things.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, his goal is to start fixing tractors and things like that. He's
Hmm.
probably the one who likes the farming aspect the most. But all of the kids end up doing things that are farming, and I'm not quite sure what they're going to end up doing in their permanent lives. Elijah, his thing is he likes to walk beef steers. So in the winter we get between 300 and 400 inches of snow, and that
Yeah. Yeah.
and so we have it's like living in a habit trail. By the time I get to March, it's just these tall 6 foot tall white walls. And
Hmm.
the way that we get the beef steer their exercise, so they don't get antsy, is we just put a halter on them and they walk. And so they walk up and down the plowed road because we're about a quarter mile off of.
Hmm.
And so they'll walk like twice or 3 times so that they can get like a half a mile to a mile in. And anyway, Elijah, who's one of my more brilliant children, he's like
Hmm.
he started math at 14. He started calculus at 14. And I remember him telling
Oh my goodness.
if someone had told me how fun and easy calculus is, I would have done it years. I'm like, okay, I'm glad you like it. But his like so he's got this sense about him, so I don't know what he's gonna doing. But then also the thing that he loves more than anything else is he likes to walk beef steer. And it's funny because he walks these like 1,800-pound beef steer like they're dogs. They'll do whatever he says. They'll do
Wow.
so I don't know. I don't know where my kids will go, but I want them to have the options. So our goal is to
Hmm.
make sure that they have the educational options that they want, but also that if they decide that they want to do things like fix tractors and cut hay for people, they can do that too. I don't know.
Are any of them nearing college age?
Yes, actually. So Raymond is going to be working his way through college because he's the one who wants to do tractor repairs. So he's going to be taking
Right.
those classes. And then he's still working for somebody else. So he just graduated in May, and then my oldest daughter Maria also graduated at the same time. They're not they're Irish twins. They're not twin twins, but they're really close in age. Maria is
Yeah. Yeah.
working with AmeriCorps to get her college scholarship money, so she's going to be actually as an assistant to a Title I teacher in town. So
Hmm.
it's a good commute to her. I think door to door it's 29 miles to the school that she's working.
Wow.
Yeah, and everything is far here. It's all relative. I mean, that's what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But she's really
Yeah.
enjoying that, and so she's trying to decide, does she really want to go into education, or is there something else that she wants to do? So, meanwhile, she can still explore that possibility and not have to give up on breeding sheep because
Yeah.
she's got 2 ewes that she's planning on breeding this actually like in a week.
Wow. My goodness.
Have both of those things for right now.
Fantastic. So when do you have time to write?
Actually, I write when my kids go to bed.
Yeah.
So I like everybody has to go to bed, and the teenagers, it's like, I don't care if you're in bed, but if I hear you or see you, then I care. And that's it. You just have to be quiet and out of the way. And which is actually hard because we live in a small house. It's 1,640 square feet. So it's
For all of you, that's not that much.
really small. It's very small, but I mean, it's a 19th
Wow.
century house. And, back in the day, if you were building a house and you have to heat it with wood you cut yourself, you're going
Yeah.
you're going to keep the windows small and you're going to keep the room small.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so the biggest room in the house is the kitchen. Actually, we have a very, very large kitchen. So usually they'll hang out in there, and I write when my kids go to bed. And then I give myself
So
30 minutes in the middle of the day to like recharge.
so you do it every day?
I do. I try to write every single day. This summer it's been really busy because I had a contract that I was working on and trying to get all that stuff put together for that. But that'll be slowing down now. So it was getting,
Contract, as in not a writing contract.
it was, but I was writing for somebody else, and so it was not
Okay.
my own stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so I had to generate things for them, and that meant that I put things on the back burner. But it ended up helping to pay
Mhm.
people for my kids, which I think is really important. So I did that. Um, you know, the thing is that I also have I've done this since my kids were little. We have like a mandatory reading period every day where if
Oh, that's brilliant.
you have to read, you read. If you're too little to read,
Yeah.
take a nap. And that
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, so when I say I take my little break in the middle of the day to kind of like recharge and do that, I make my kids read for an hour a day.
That's awesome.
It works out really well because I really don't have to force them to read anymore. There's definitely a
Yeah.
that they really enjoy it. I was talking
Okay.
to
How long did that take until you had to until you stopped forcing them? How old were they when they started to enjoy them more?
for longer. Some kids were longer, but by the end of it, well, right now nobody hates reading, but there were some kids who took longer. But the kids who took the longest ones, we let them use audiobooks. And so we
Mhm.
have like this massive collection of audiobooks. We have all of the Lord of the Rings, not the
Yeah.
version, but the unabridged dramatic reading. So we have
Yes.
the whole thing, and my 9-year-old has listened to it um, 4 times a year since she was 5.
What?
All 20, what is it, 20 and like 20 hours and 10 minutes? Yeah,
Wow.
here. She rotates through.
I'm impressed.
So she does audiobooks. She does all the Lord of the Rings, and then she'll do and then they listen to audiobooks so they go to bed at night. And so
Uh-huh.
I was telling Melinda Johnson that I'm really glad that she wrote a second book about shepherding Sam because Christina listens to that. That's her Thursday night go to bed. And so every
Uh-huh.
Thursday night since that audiobook came out, Christina has listened to that audiobook every single Thursday night. And so my
Goodness.
like, it's time to get a new book. And I told Christina, I'm like, I got a second one. Start reading that. So
Oh my goodness.
listen to it every Thursday night for the rest of my life.
So, wow, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. And impressed that you're able to. I mean, and I'm embarrassed because I haven't sat down to write something. I have a very pressing deadline, but I haven't done it in about 2 weeks. And here you are with 11 kids and tons of animals running around you, and you're managing to do it every day. So,
Well,
what are you writing right now?
isn't always very long. I mean, but my whole thing is that
Yeah,
something has to get written every day, even if it's not
no, that's
as I want it to be.
yeah,
So, like
that's
sometimes
a good thing to do.
a sentence. I mean, really.
Hmm.
Otherwise, nothing.
Well, still you're doing it. It's the point of it is the consistency, right? Because your brain gets used to the idea, so you're automatically doing it. You're just
Right.
sitting down and doing it automatically.
Well, and I think you
Yeah. So
sort of building up some of that, some of what you intend to put down in your head. If you're constantly
yeah.
thinking
Hmm.
about it, then you're not
Yep. Yeah.
from scratch. I mean, there have been times when I put down a project for a while and then I come back a few months later and like I have no idea what I was working on.
Yeah.
and the time
Yeah.
to get up to speed just ends up wasting valuable writing time.
No, it's true. And the what is writing? Writing is not necessarily sitting in front of a piece of paper and writing or typing. It's continuing to inhabit those ideas, those stories, those characters. And the idea is to keep it going. If you stop, then yeah, like you said, you come back to it and it's like who wrote this?
And I think it's harder if you do fiction like you do, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of threads you have to keep track of. I mean, I
Yeah.
have a fiction piece that I've been picking up and putting down for like 2 years now. Not
Hmm.
years, like a year and a half now. And
Hmm.
I really want to develop it. I haven't done a whole lot of fiction writing. I did a lot of contract recipe development and sponsored like mommy blogging thing for years before
Yeah.
my book. But I always had the state of like, I'm going to write a novel. But then, like, how to keep all those people straight and their thoughts straight in my own head that's enormously difficult because my kids are big
Hmm.
fans of your books. And they're, well, they really are. You know that. My daughter Isabel was saying that I can't remember which book it was. I think it was the first one. She was telling somebody at book club at the library it's better than Harry Potter. And you do a really good job of you have those people and their lives and their thoughts and their worlds straight in your head, and I don't know how you do that.
It's just different versions of myself. That's the secret. So it's all real because it's all me.
It's all,
Uh,
well,
but
good. It's worked out really well. My kids have really enjoyed your books.
well, I'm glad. So what are you working on right now?
I actually am writing about farming. The art director at Ancient Faith, Michael Dorning, had recommended that I try to incorporate a lot of those things. Um, at the Ancient Faith conference a year ago, we had a keynote speaker, and I can't remember the whole context of his speech, but
Who was it?
I can't remember. He does development work. I'll have to look up his name, but I have his
Okay.
papers. And the thing that I remember is that he was talking about um, making the Christian journey real for people. And he asked,
Was that Bill Marinides?
it might have been, I can't remember.
Okay.
It was 2 years ago, and my brain is full of
Okay.
grade grammar and grocery lists, but it might have been. I was going to
Yeah. Okay.
talking about this and making Christian journey real for people. And one of the things that he had talked about was the parable of the 99 sheep, that you leave the 99 to go look for the lost one. And so he said,
Mhm.
who had sheep? And two people in that audience raised their hand, and I was one of them. The other was Elizabeth Johnson, who wrote Candles Glow, because
Right.
he knows exactly where I'm coming from. I'm like, yes, I know exactly what that's like. I have gone to the woods to find sheep before. It's scary. And
Mhm.
and I was talking about that. And so Michael Dorning told me to write about it. And I kind of fooled around with it and I tried a couple different ways and it wasn't working and it wasn't working. And I really couldn't find the narrative for it. I couldn't figure out how to make it work. And then my favorite cow, my absolute favorite milk cow, got sick. And it turned out that he
Mhm.
had a fatal form of bovine colitis and that we were going to have to put
Mhm.
it down. And I can't tell you, I cried. Now, we raise a lot of animals for meat production, and and
Yeah.
we do get close, and it's hard. But there's something different about dairy cows because we know that dairy cows
Mhm.
are not there for meat, and the connection that you have with the dairy cow is very different. Even use a milking machine. You're washing that cow, you're touching that cow, you call the cow in to get in the stanchion to be milked, and it was painful for my entire family to lose this cow. And actually, we lost it
Mhm.
during Great Lent. And it was this
Oh.
incredibly painful moment of having to deal with, okay, we are not only struggling losing this cow, which is it's a financial loss. They're not cheap, especially beautiful high
Mhm.
production Jersey cows like that. They're not cheap.
Mhm.
But this one was my favorite. I liked this one. I liked this one so much. And oh my gosh, all of us just cried and cried and cried over it. And so I decided to sort of take those emotions and write about farming because I think one of the questions I get asked actually a lot by people who have either this romanticized version of farming or this idea that, farming is only done by people who are idiots and don't know how to do anything,
Hmm.
and that it's a brain drain. They have a lot of questions, but people, I think, ask the questions that they do out of a sense of wanting to know what is out there. I mean, they might go to a farmer's market,
Hmm.
they might look for like a pot of basil at the grocery store that they can bring home and put in their kitchen window. And there's this sense of wanting to have some kind of permanent connection to this rituals and cycles of life. And
Yeah.
talking about loss, I thought was a really good way to motivate me to write about those things. So I did,
Hmm.
and it kind of all fell into place. And there's good and there's bad, and that was a really really negative experience. But there's so many more positive experiences that it sort of unlocked in me the narrative that I needed to find those kinds of experiences.
Hmm.
You know, like I was talking about lambing season. Lambing is it's hard. It's get up and go check on animals at all hours of the night, but it's absolutely thrilling when you have an animal give birth. It's this absolutely phenomenal experience. And there are times when we've lost calves and there's times when we've lost lambs. And that makes the times that like you can like wrench back a sick one that maybe you've had to bottle feed for a while and then you see them running around and they're
Hmm.
healthy and active. It's this incredible experience. And so now that I have the narrative, I'm going to take the rest of those kinds of experiences and put them together. And sadly enough, I didn't read enough James Herriot as a child. I household, and I was aware of him, but I never read him. And then when I got married, my little sister was in high school, and so for her birthday, my husband bought her the whole James Herriot collection, and she ended up absolutely loving it. But I had not even known who he was because,
Uh-huh.
again, I grew up in a Spanish-speaking household. He's not. I mean, he's really great, but he hasn't
Yeah.
Spanish-speaking cultures yet. So
Yeah.
a couple of times, like, you remind me a lot of James Herriot. And so I ended up getting his whole collection on audiobook. And
Hmm.
my kids and I have been listening to all of them. Actually, my daughter Veronica, um, I gave you a sample of what I've been working on.
Hmm.
She's
Yeah.
the one who showed the half Jersey beef steer at the fair.
Hmm.
She's a big James
Hmm.
Herriot fan now. So
Hmm.
actually,
Wonderful.
writer stories that I've covered so far is having one of my smallest children show a beef steer at county fair. And she's like, we actually, our 4-H leader was talking about it with me just a couple days ago about how just funny it was to see her and her beef steer at the fair because Veronica's, she's nothing if not compassionate. And she had spoiled this
Yeah.
point that he wouldn't walk unless she gave him grain. And so she was carrying grain in her and she would like give it to him and he would follow her, but if he didn't have any grain he'd flop down and whine, and we this was his routine. But oh my gosh, it was just, it's anyway. So she's legend at the Houghton County Fair now because everyone is always going to remember
Hmm.
here who would flop down and moan and whine.
That's amazing. No, but I mean the magic of James Herriot really is not so much the animal aspect, but it's the fact that there's so many interesting human characters, and the animals they're almost there as a kind of foil to the weirdnesses and the wonderfulnesses of the human people that surround James Herriot. And I imagine with the size of your family and the fact that you have this cultural melting pot. I know it's not a popular term to use these days, but
It
if
is.
anybody's going to ever use it, it'll it's exactly what it is in your family.
It is.
I imagine that the stories are endless, right?
Well, I think they are. And and I think what makes James Herriot so popular is you don't have to know anything about farming. Because what
Yeah.
Harriet does masterfully is he takes these experiences and emotions and these sentiments that we all have, and he clothes them in this particular flesh. That is of a young veterinarian making his bones out in Yorkshire. But really, what he does is he takes these common experiences and he reminds us of how they are common and how we connect
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
people. And I think that any good memoir of sorts has to do that. It has to take these
Yeah.
common experiences and clothe them just in different suits.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it has to be just different enough to to remind people that it's not simultaneously that it's about them, but it's not about them. So they have this experience of community, right?
Right, exactly. I think that's exactly what it does is it builds community because it makes us realize that the feelings and emotions that we have, the good ones and the bad ones, are shared by other people.
Hmm.
And I think that not only does it build community, but and it's like the same thing, really, but a little bit different. But it makes us feel less lonely. The world can be really big.
Hmm.
It can be very isolating, and sometimes we don't understand that the bigger emotions that we have are shared by other people, and being reminded.
And and absolutely, and note the supreme, I don't know if it's irony or what, of you talking about community and you embodying that community in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
while people in the middle of a city are sitting in front of their computer screen, getting the endorphin rush from liking something on Facebook, and not having that sense of community, even though they're surrounded by hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people, right?
Did you see
So
that?
how about that?
Did you see that article? Well, it's not even an article. It was just a brief little quote of Humans of New York, and he
Hmm.
that he
Yes.
that it was like slot machines, and it was just this
Hmm.
horrible moment of, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I do. I scroll through Facebook looking for that same dopamine rush, and I've never gambled. I've never used a slot machine in my life. Not that I'm criticizing
Yeah.
you, but I've
Yeah.
done it, and yet I have because I do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. No, it's really, talking to you, it's like the most natural thing in the world to consider this, just to look at this and feel that sense of community. And yet, all you have to do is walk outside, and it's lost again, right?
It
It's
is.
there seems to be so much difficulty in making that first step towards conversation, towards um, being in the same space as another soul these days, even though we're so close to each other, even though connection is so easy on some level. Um, so it's good to be reminded of that you can be in the middle of a place that has 300 inches of snow a year, and it doesn't matter because you could still have an intense sense of community, and then you can share it too, which is a wonderful thing.
No, honestly, I see more of my neighbors here than I did ever living in the city. I mean, we lived in,
Oh, fast.
what is it, 85 by 100 feet lot. And,
Hmm.
some of my neighbors, but I didn't know very many of my neighbors. Um, I lived in an area where kids I had gone from, that had gone to high school with, and their siblings lived really very close by. And,
Hmm.
I saw them, but I didn't know but a handful of my other neighbors. But here,
Yeah.
um, when we moved in, and this is absolutely 100% true. When we moved in, the we did not have clearance to bring a big heavy machine down these old country roads. So they put road restrictions on after the snow melts because the ground is soft, and the shit
Uh-huh.
damaged the road base underneath the
Oh, wow. Okay.
and so we were a couple of days early, but we were moving and the snow had melted really late and we didn't know what to do. So we just told our truck driver, don't get caught. And so the big moving truck down our quarter-mile driveway and he gets it stuck.
Oh no.
But between the close in apple orchard and the east pasture, and I thought to myself, we can't even call a record truck for help or anything because we're breaking the law by having this truck out here. So my
That's right.
husband calls, or my husband's uncle called it like a bunch of like old guys, like I know they would hate that I would say this, but like guys in their like 70s and 80s. And so what they did is they all got their old tractors from the 50s and 60s and some logging chains, and they pulled this semi truck out in our driveway. Not, and it was just like all, it was like this brigade of old tractors coming down my driveway to save us so that we wouldn't get in trouble with the police. And like
That's amazing.
you see things like that, right? In the city,
Yeah, no, no, for sure.
car could be on fire, and who's going to help you?
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. People just run right by and pretend like they can't see it. Absolutely.
Exactly, because they've got, oh,
I was struck by when I was rereading the section that you sent me today. There's some sentences that they're total gems that just stick out, and you want to just keep reading them and thinking about them. But there was one that I want you to talk about.
okay.
Um, it's living. You say living on a small farm has taught me so many things about myself and my children and my husband, even about my God. What does farming teach you about God?
Um, well, one of the really interesting things is if we look through the Psalms, how many things have to do with agriculture. When you talk about, leaving the 99 for the one, or when you talk about, actually, one of my daughters was talking about this recently. She was talking about killing the fatted calf. So we have a milk calf right now, and he's beautiful, and we love him, and there's no plans to kill him for a party for my kids. But she understands the intense sacrifice that it means, because one, back at that time, you would have to consume all that meat very, very quickly. So you're talking about like a very luxurious, lavish spread of just constantly eating meat until it's gone. But then also, if you slaughter that fatted calf, you're slaughtering a calf that's maybe a couple 100 pounds. If I'm going to talk about an Angus cow, we're talking about or like a beef calf. We're talking about something that's, maybe 200 pounds, maybe as much as, because by that point in time, they're weaned. But if you're talking about one that's been raised to adulthood, that's 1,800 pounds of meat. And that's a totally different thing. So, it means something to make an incredible sacrifice. That's not about the sacrifice that you're making right now, the time and attention, and to possibly for this giant party. But really, the cost at like 1,300 pounds of meat that you could have had down the road. Now, when we're talking about goats and things like that, of course, they're considerably smaller. But it's something that we remember, because we know that it's not about the immediate cost. It's that there's this enormous sense of promise that is just happily given over in that moment. And, I think about those things now. And then actually, one of the things that's not in that sample yet that I'm working on is one Christmas Day, actually it was Western Christmas, it was not Russian Christmas, but it was still Western Christmas, so all my neighbors were celebrating Christmas. We had this violent snowstorm, and some trees took out our electric line, which means that we took battery-operated lantern out to our barn, and we had to milk the cow by hand. And it was cold. I think it was probably maybe 15 degrees or 20 degrees below zero. But we were out in the barn milking, and I bawled. I was so tired. And then milking by hand, it requires so much hand motion that your arms just like burn, but you have to keep going, because you have to keep going. And so you go past the point at which your arms are burning and your elbows it's weird. Your elbows start to hurt after a while. So I'm talking like 5 milk, right? And I just cried and cried and cried. And I was like, why would God do this to us? It's almost 20 degrees below zero, and I'm out milking this cow. And I thought about this. And then I was crying as I was milking and freaking out. My kids were out helping me milk. But I was thinking about Jesus was born in a freaking barn, and it was not as cold as that, but it was still cold for me. And I felt really bad for ever complaining because I was hand milking a cow on in 20 degrees.
That's amazing.
But I mean, it's things like that I have to think about. Where, like my husband was saying, that one of his approaches to liturgy is completely different.
That's interesting.
Because, he's the one who pulls the trigger. I mean, very literally, he's the one who pulls the trigger. And he was talking about this a year ago. We were processing some lambs, and he was talking about how it completely changes the way he views the liturgy, because, and it's something that I'm not in there for. But when you talk, when he listens to the priest talking about leading a lamb to the slaughter, he has been with our sons. So those same people who are in there serving the liturgy in the altar with him are the same ones who are putting a halter on these lambs and taking them out away from the other lambs so that my husband can shoot them.
Wow.
And then we have to bring the lambs back to the house and process them. And he said that, it's right. And so he said that when they get to liturgy and they're all there in the altar and he hears those words from the priest, it's just this very sobering moment of he knows exactly what it means.
That's incredible. Wow. Well, I hope you keep to the regular discipline of writing this thing, because it needs to get written, it needs to get published. And hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, go ahead.
Goals. I've told my kids I will pay them off in screen time on Fridays if they give me more writing time on Fridays. So.
Oh yeah. I'm sure they won't mind. Melissa, this is great. It's actually I have to get up at 5 to go to liturgy tomorrow, so I'm gonna have to. Yeah, you know all about this. This is not early for
Yeah.
you, but for me this is early. So I'm gonna I'm gonna have to wrap this up. But we've actually been talking for more than an hour, I think.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh.
think I think we've been doing fine.
I have to get up tomorrow too. All right. Well, it was really good talking to you. Kiss your
Yeah,
beautiful babies.
I will do.
And
So for everybody who has come in late, Melissa is an author. She's writing a memoir on her farming life. She hasn't. We're not sure yet about publication plans, but if you're interested, um, stay. Just stick around me. I'll let you know about her future plans in case the book comes out in print. And if you want to follow her, where can people follow you online?
actually, I'm really most active. I'm very, very active on Instagram at Melissa Naasko. And I'm also very active on Facebook at Fasting as a Family, which is the Facebook page for my Ancient Faith book.
Okay, so everybody go
Go do that.
hang out and stalk her over there, and she'll let you know about when the book's coming out.
Very good. Thanks so much.
Okay, Melissa, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, see you later. Bye.
Bye.